Hello and welcome to the Hoop Troop podcast. I am Matt O'Connor, and joining me as they do on all of our shows, my cousin Luke Drobner.
What's up, guys?
And my brother Mike O'Connor.
I'm here.
Yeah, okay. Well,
here.
we're here, I guess.
My body's here, but I'm still broken from the Eastern Conference final.
Well, that is probably the best way of leading into this segment. We are recording this on Monday, June 2nd, ahead of the NBA Finals. So the Thunder and the Pacers are meeting in a matchup that's probably having David Stern just roll in his grave. He never would have let this happen. But, I mean, yeah, it sucks. Our Knicks lost in 6 games in a pretty, honestly, disappointing. It's hard to say that going into the season that losing in 6 games in the Eastern Conference Finals is disappointing for this Knicks team. It is the way they lost that's disappointing. But before
the team they lost to?
Yeah, the whole process. But let's not hit on that first. Let's hit on the NBA Finals first. I want to give the Thunder and the Pacers of just a fair evaluation. We can talk about the good and the bad about it, but let's start there. Before we start just getting into our grievances and things we need to air, because I have plenty. But all right, so going in and looking at this matchup, I'm going to give my first takeaway. I'm going to start positive because there are negatives to go with it. I do think it's pretty cool that we're going into this series, and it really is just truly marketing new young stars. Like between SGA and Halliburton, regardless of what you want to say about both of them, whether, free throw merchant, kind of cringy and like generally not that good, whatever you want to say, they are, realistically the future of the NBA. They're here to stay, and their teams are in the finals after successful runs last year and now this year. I think that's really awesome.
Neither team is in the first apron, right?
No, and that's the first time that's happened since I think like 06, 07, but there was like a rule in place. I don't know, that was like a weird year. But basically ever since the apron system has been in place, this is the first time that's happened.
So you both have nailed 2 things that are unique about it. So like the young star, stars multiple, I guess. You count like J-Dub.
And J-Dub was all NBA, all defensive team as well. Chet's up, he's on the rise.
That they are not in the luxury tax, or like they've stayed. Mm-hmm. So what that tells me is you're winning with either young people who don't have to get paid that much yet, or
well-rounded rosters with multitudes of role players. When you look at both rosters, like the Pacers, they're going like 10 guys deep, even in the playoffs. Same with the Thunder, right?
But even watching that, like, well, whatever. I don't know if I'm going to. I don't want to dive into the ECF quite yet. But then the last thing is, it's going to be a first-time franchise championship, by the way, which I think is.
We'll put an asterisk on that for the Thunder, but yes, because they technically won in Seattle, but
yeah, they don't claim the.
They don't claim it. Yeah,
so they've claimed that if Seattle gets an expansion team, they're going to avoid all the history because they still have KD's jersey and
But in any event, you're right. I think that is really cool. It's definitely. I think it's really good for the future of the NBA. It might not feel like it in the short term, and I know everyone says like, "Oh, it's a boring finals, whatever." But I think we've been so hung up on the aging generation of stars that we're really due for this takeover. And yeah, whatever. Do I really think Halliburton is taking over the NBA? No, not necessarily. But I mean, he's been consistent. He's gotten there. Granted, there have been a lot of injuries and poor coaching decisions that have gotten him to this point. But in any event, I think between him, Anthony Edwards, back-to-back conference finals, like we're finally seeing this younger generation really break through. And so, and obviously, then if you want to go in and say Tatum won last year, you're looking at this. It's no longer the LeBron, Steph, KD group. And I think if they're going to get back there, it's going to take some different kind of a route, but where they might not be the first option. So I think this is now officially turning the page onto this new era. And I think that's awesome. So
the parity era, right? We've had a new champion every year for the past 7 years.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And go ahead, Michael. You go before I go.
Okay, but keep your thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so weird that the 2 finals competitors are the ultra young, because you're not even talking about the fact that there's a 28-year-old Jokic, right? Is he 20?
Oh, he's 30.
He's now 30, but yes, to your point,
when he won, he was 28.
Yeah, right.
So
that's so older.
Luka's like 7 years in. Like you got this middle generation that's still in their prime. It's it's interesting.
Yeah, but like let that Lakers team develop around Luka, and you might see something different.
Yeah, and I mean, I think to your point, Michael, it's. I think the longevity of some of those other guys did kind of skip over the opportunity for some of that middle ground era to really take over. So you look at, Giannis, Jokic, they only have one championship, but they're in that middle segment. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way that the new CBA has kind of started playing out and the way that everyone started really basing their roster leading up to it. And I think the thing that we need to hit on, which is really kind of the culmination of all the points you just made, is we've gone from the big three era to like the duos and whatever, however you want to look at that, from the 2000s to 2010s. Now it's really turning into, and I've seen this thrown around on the internet a ton, and I think it's super accurate, the weak link era, where it's not about just having the best guy, it's about not having the worst guy and not having the weak link, because those are the guys, you're going to have to look at these teams. They're playing deep benches and they're playing full rotations, and they don't really have this hole in their roster. And so I think that's it, is teams have gotten so good at scheming against.
They have lineups. There are ways, like TJ McConnell, you're telling me you can't expose that on defense. Even the Knicks, at times, we made Miles Turner, who's a good defender, look silly, right? We put him in foul trouble. We dominated the glass. Right? There was a million. There's a lot of ways, but like, think about the Thunder, who they were last year and who they are this year, right? Adding Hartenstein, adding Caruso, like the lineups they can run. They can go small, they can go big, they can put a bunch of guys out there who can shoot threes. They can any type of lineup, right? They can see what five you have out on there, and they can run out a five that works well against that. And the Pacers can counter right back.
Right. No, and I think that's it. And like, even just going down, think of how they got there. So obviously you look at the Thunder, and they had, realistically, they didn't have a ton of trouble with exception of the Nuggets. But look at who stepped up in that series. It's Jalen Williams, non-J-Dub Jalen Williams, who played great defense on Jokic. And like, it's having those extra guys. Yeah, it's all about having those solid role players, and it's not just relying on the top of your order. Like, it's almost like, if you look at, I almost think of it in terms of baseball, and I actually, who was it? Was it Kenny the Jet Smith said it in the middle of their series about, or it may have been Charles Barkley, I forget, one of them, made a comment about Tibbs, basically saying Tibbs wouldn't play 9 players in a baseball game. And I think it's true, the reality is, you look at these teams and they're relying on deeper benches, and they're not only are they just deep, they're good. Like, it's not just that you're rolling out and playing 9-10 guys. You're playing 9-10 solid guys that would get minutes on every other team.
Yeah, how many DeLon Wright got cut from the Bucks, and then we picked him up, and now
more or less he came over in the Jericho Sims trade. So I guess you could look at that as being cut.
I mean,
it's a polite way of putting it, but yeah.
There are buyout guys on our roster, right? Those were our 8th and 9th guys. We had no depth. Look at these teams. The Pacers, they've been building this team for 3 years. The Thunder, they've been building this team for 5, 6. So
and
you got to build that talent.
Part of it is, I don't want to say luck, but the Thunder obviously had just the treasure trove of picks. Like, the way that team came together, and the way they still have all these assets, and the way that they can add, it is, I don't want to say lucky, because they have to nail the picks. Of course there's evaluation that goes into that. They have to do well. But like, as a whole, not every team is going to have that abundance of resources that they've had.
Okay, let's look at the Pacers then. Aaron Nesmith, who played great defense on Brunson all series, he got drafted by the Celtics, cut from the Celtics, and then picked up by the Pacers. They evaluated him. They said, we understand what he's good at, and they
definitely
improved what he was bad at and made him into the role player they needed. Ben Shepherd, who played a lot of minutes against the Knicks, right? 2nd round pick, I'm pretty sure. I don't think he was a highly recruited athlete. I think what these teams have done is they've drafted guys they truly believe in and put them in roles to be their best. And that's all it takes, whether you're a 1st round pick or a 2nd round pick. Obviously, if you're picking first, you're going to get a Cooper Flag. But just because you're picking 40th doesn't mean you can't get a Brunson, right, who's a 2nd round pick. So you got to pick your guy, understand who he is, and then put him in the right situation to be successful.
And I mean, that's it. Nemhard, 2nd round. Like, all these guys, they've hit. And so it does take that. Like, they're obviously, and that's why I don't want to say it's just
I wouldn't even call it luck. These guys evaluated their talent. They understood, okay, we have the 40th pick, who's available at 40, and they drafted the guy. They not the best prospect, but the best player.
And I do think too, though, it's adding quality talent around the edges too. So like even for them, I know they're not huge additions, but Thomas Bryant and Tony Bradley played big minutes for them in the conference finals, which is something like I cannot believe that's a sentence coming out of my mouth. If you told me that, like think of the LeBron James like going for a shot meme where Thomas Bryant's in there calling for the ball in the paint, and like everyone was laughing at that because Thomas Bryant wasn't a legitimate role player. He never really had been in his career, and they bring him in, and they find a system that works, they play to people's strengths, and it works. But so all it is about, like, pulling in talent and, like, really having that strong evaluation and being able to make your team deeper and have different looks that you can throw at teams.
But I also think that might be something that small market teams are forced to do. Like, you don't have any other choice, really.
100%. But even, like, the Knicks, we haven't been able to sign big free agents.
Yeah. And we should be building a team as if we are forced to be like, okay, Thomas Bryant's the only thing we have here. Let's figure out how to like figure this out, which is what I think the Pacers had to do. Obi Toppin, like, we'll give him a shot and we run and gun, and like maybe that'll help him look good. Still not convinced there. Like,
I mean, part of it too for the Pacers is the fact that the Kings made a pretty dumb move by trading for Sabonis. I mean, just the way that they blew that team up was questionable at best. So, like,
I think the feeling for the Kings at that time was they had Fox and they had Halliburton, and they had to pick one or the other. And Fox was this like established star, and they believed in him, and they shipped off Halliburton.
I know. I'm not saying. I think at the time though there was a discussion as to which one you keep, and they kept the wrong guy. I think, it's pretty much. And
sliding doors, those are sliding doors moments. It's the same thing as, like, who you draft in the second round. Like, I don't know.
No, yes.
Nembhard, you think the Pacers were like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. I think you pick Nembhard and you cross your fingers.
I also think
Deuce or, like, Kolek for, like, maybe that'll hit. You never know. But
I also think the Pacers are a really competent organization. You leave Halliburton on the Kings. Do they put the same type of team around him? Do they build a contender around Halliburton? We could have a completely different narrative on Halliburton if he's still a King. So the what ifs are endless.
I also think the other thing too that's kind of missed in a lot of this analysis is we all talk about the players and the way that the roster is constructed. So much of it's on the coaching to actually make those rosters work. And so I think Carlisle deserves a hell of a lot more credit than he's probably getting. And then obviously, I mean, my goodness, Dagnall, no KC, he gets plenty, but like, it's so important to be able to find those combinations that work.
I think the thing is the communication. I think something that always sticks out in my mind is when the Knicks traded for Cam Reddish, and Thibodeau was like, I'm not playing this guy. And we traded a first-round pick and a whole bunch of other stuff for Reddish, and it ended up being a bad thing for us. But what happens if you just communicate, right? Like, what type of conversation is Dagnall and Presti having? What type of conversation is Carlisle and, I don't know, the GM or the president of basketball operations for the Pacers? But, like, is Carlisle getting his guys in? Is he talking to the GM and saying, go get this guy? Or is it like the GM just making moves and Carlisle figuring it out?
Probably a mix of both. I think some things they probably welcome input from coaching, and then others they just say, we're doing our thing, we're the boss. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just, I feel like that's the reporting you always see is sometimes they're involved, sometimes they're not. And that's why, I mean, and then also the other thing is just how much is ownership involved versus the front office and everything, because everyone knows owners. I mean, look at the Suns right now. Owners like to meddle.
I think the Knicks have gotten better since Dolan has kind of taken a backseat.
All right, you're bringing it up. Well, no, let's focus. We'll do the finals first, and then who do we think is going to win this series? So enough about just getting there.
Thunder
and 5.
I can't believe it, but I agree. I think Thunder and 5.
Games 1 and 2, Thunder. Game 3, Pacers, and then Thunder close it out.
It's kind of how I feel. I just think they're bad. I mean, they're so much better. They're just so much better.
It's going to be super fast, electric basketball. It's going to be a running gun. The Pacers love to run, and so do the Thunder. And there's going to be a million turnovers, too. Both teams, 20 turnovers a game.
I think I agree with that. I think it's going to get chippy, too, is the other thing. Is I just think the way that the Thunder play versus the way that the Pacers play, they're not going to appreciate the contact.
Both teams are physical.
Yes and no. The Thunder kind of take it to another level. They pretty much employ the strategy of we're going to foul you on every
They're
play.
they're the same as every other team. Don't listen to those Twitter narratives, people talking. It's exactly the same. Look at what we do. You don't think like Hart and Robinson and Cat are pushing people and elbowing people and
we're so soft. Our team. That's another. We are soft. We're not doing that, and we don't do enough of it. We aren't aggressive.
Exactly, and that's why we're not in the finals like these teams do.
Yeah, that's my point.
We're not like barging through screens. We're not. It's crazy. We need to be.
We need that dog in us.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the two teams, because I know we're all still in pain from this weekend and the series. But anyway, no, I think it's going to be a little too much for the Pacers to handle. I also think, look, whether we want to say they're banged up or not, I don't know. Neesmith has his minor injury that he's playing through. Tony Bradley's out. Jarris Walker is going to be out for the beginning of it.
Tony Bradley was playing.
No, so he got.
He
hurt.
did for a little bit. He played in the beginning.
He didn't play Game 6. He got hurt in Game 5, and then that's why Thomas Bryant was in, and Thomas Bryant was hitting threes.
Went off.
Yeah, insane. But anyway, I digress. But so they are a little banged up, and so do we think?
And the Thunder aren't.
Right, and so that was going to be my point. Is not only is it going to be physical and intense, is how much those injuries really add up, and at what point do the Pacers really start to feel the effects of that? Because, like we said, they use that bench a ton. And so even though they're like star guys, aren't the ones that are really injured.
Well, their bench is now banged up. So you go 8 guys, Thunder is still going 10, 11 deep. It's going to wear you out.
Yeah. So, and especially too, I know it's the NBA Finals, and everyone thinks, okay, that's when you constrict your lineup and you just say, okay, we're going to play our guys, we're going to win. That just feels like we're at such a departure from that right now that I don't really see that being the way the Pacers play this. I think they're going to try and find some other bench guys to throw in there. And
I think the only way you really play those guys 45 minutes is you have someone who's so dominant. You need them out there. A LeBron, a Jokic, a Giannis. But Halliburton's a great player. Shea's a great player, but are they going to control every aspect of a game for 48 minutes? I don't know if they're that good.
Maybe, probably. I don't know.
There are aspects of the game that they can control, not every aspect.
Jay has the most potential to do that.
I'd say so. But and then probably Halliburton. If you look at his Game 4 against the Knicks, what he did, that's something. Yeah. If you're going to go off like that, which is rare, it's few and far between. I'm not saying that's a regular occurrence. Shea a little more likely, but think
about a LeBron. LeBron could guard anybody at any time.
Yeah,
is Halliburton going to guard? I don't know, Chet.
No,
Is he? Right? Is SGA going to guard Siakam?
Maybe.
No. Yeah. Siakam, everything went for Siakam. He's much better than I think he is.
Yeah. But I do think at the end of the day, OKC's been the best team for 6 months. And
they've been the best team all year. I guess they're going to be for a while, Boston. And
I think they just have enough, and they have the MVP. And it is just clear. It's very clear.
Yeah.
That'd be a good outcome, I think.
I think so. I'm not thrilled. I mean, it's whatever. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. I don't think it's gonna be that much fun of a series. Obviously, I think they're high level basketball, but whatever. I just feel like it's a foregone conclusion of who's gonna win this thing, and it kind of stinks. It feels like it's obviously I don't want to equate them because they're vastly different teams. It just feels like the Durant Warriors taking on teams that were not as good.
Interesting.
But I do think the Thunder are beatable because obviously, I mean, Jokic almost single-handedly took them down, which I think.
But it took that is so.
Jokic is easily the best player in the NBA right now, I think.
And yeah, that is definitely true. I think a full steam Boston, if let's say Boston ran into them fully healthy, I think that would be something.
Yeah. And I think that's what everyone expected.
And if we were dialed, I think we could steal maybe 2.
1, yeah.
Right, but that's why I think this goes 5.
They're not unbeatable. It's just
this is going to be 5 or 6 tops.
I would have liked to see what a healthy Warriors team could have done against them. I don't think the Warriors were a championship level team this year after trading for Butler in the middle of the season, but I think they showed more promise than the Wolves before Curry got injured.
I think that is fair, actually. I don't think I disagree with that.
I think the Butler trade was so genius. Again, another example of like evaluating people and understanding your personnel. I think what Butler is very, very good at complements what Curry is very, very good at. Like, very perfect. It's
and
perfect
I think
fit.
if you're that front office too, the way you go about that is I feel like a lot of teams, when you're making that type of a move, it's a home run swing where you have to trade so much to go make it happen. You didn't really. You kind of just did like you're half in right now. You still have now another half to go play with, depending on what you want to do for this last ride for Steph, which all the communication seems to be like, we're going to try and make this happen now.
I'd love to see it. I think they're, 2 pieces away from being a real championship team.
Yeah, so I think the way that they did that too, so obviously, yes, it's a shame the way it all fell apart. Everyone kind of got hurt, and like it does. It stinks this year. You look at that win percentage when they were healthy and the way that they got here. Yeah, depending on how they handle this offseason, like obviously you look at guys like Kuminga, and they're going to make changes. But yeah,
the changes are coming.
Right. All right. So now, since we've already predicted the finals, and clearly none of us are that enthused by it, let's switch to the offseason, since clearly that's where we're all itching to go. And talking about the Warriors doing moves like that, now all I want to do is talk about it. Want to just get the Knicks out of the way since we're all itching?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think they need to do here right now? Because the way that season ended, I think we would all agree it was a disappointing end to the season. There were highs and lows. They somehow overachieved and underachieved. I don't know how that's possible, but they did.
Realistically, depth. We need a deeper bench, right? I think that became very apparent. I think we got better once we put the depth in against Indiana and we see the impact that playing a larger rotation can have. But we need that for the whole year. We need to bring in guys that Tibbs will play game 20 to the end of the season, whenever that playoff run ends, right? So, vet minimums, that's where it's at. Bring Landry Shamet back. I've loved Landry Shamet all year. Bring him back.
I agree. Especially, it's a shame he got hurt right before the season started, because
that's realistic. Can we all agree on that?
Yeah, no, he'll be. I think he would like to be back. I think he liked being a Knick.
Oh, I'm talking about in general, the Knicks moves, right? All we're doing is we just need to add depth, run it back, keep the chemistry going, and the juices flowing.
So I'll start high and then back down from there. The trade that is being floated out there, which is, I understand why, because the name is so big
Giannis.
And the fit is so great with Brunson that it makes sense on paper. But here's the thing, just because I want to get ahead of it, so that way anyone listening...
What are we giving up?
The only way that trade happens is if Giannis says, I only want to go to the Knicks, and then the Bucks honor that. That's the only way that trade happens. And even then, because, the Knicks can't beat a trade package to get him. There are so many teams that could give more. It's not happening unless that happens. I don't think that's happening. So even if you are going to do that, then what do you have to give? And I think... financially, it has to be some combination of Karl Anthony Towns, either OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges, and then some to make it work.
I think financially he matches Cat's salary almost perfectly.
I think there's some apron rules and things like that get a little dicey. Oh. But yeah, so I don't know. From the articles and things I've been reading, I didn't do the math myself. But
I'm just interjecting there because I think we talked about it the last time we got together. That why do GMs and presidents of basketball operations fall into this pit, even though we keep seeing it failing every time?
Makes money.
Giannis is over 30. He is injury prone. I'm calling him injury prone. He's been injured in series before. I know he's the second best player in the world.
Yeah.
I feel like in recent history, I haven't seen anyone empty the coffers and it was worth it. If you want to say Anthony Davis won the Lakers a ring, sure, but now they're in complete dysfunction.
Well,
I don't know.
And that's a good point. And to Luke's point of what do you have to give out to make that happen, it makes it so unlikely, because it feels like as much as you're taking that step forward, you're kind of taking a step back. And I don't think in everything we just discussed of not having the weak link, you're almost guaranteed if you have the Brunson Giannis
we're going to have somebody on the floor we don't want.
You are going right, exactly. Especially if you're just building it in one offseason like this, it's easy for me to believe that you're not going to have the best rotation.
So what else? You had stuff from the high level and down.
So that's the first trade that's kind of been floated, and a lot of them are centered around Karl-Anthony Towns. Which, look, he was undeniably flawed. Everything about his defense was pretty laughable. Like him in drop coverage, which Tibbs for some reason kept having him play. I don't like that's poor coaching. Even your center can't do that, you don't keep playing it.
It's beyond the half court. I mean, the fouling, right? The petty fouls. You make a mistake. We texted about it. He makes a mistake and then he compacts it by fouling somebody because he made a mistake.
Right.
Okay. Yes, you gave up that offensive rebound. They got the layup.
Yeah. No, and I think that is obviously the huge negative. And he makes some bad decisions on offense too. He usually is just too impulsive.
And then, the offensive stuff is... And then he doesn't get back on defense. The number of times people got out and ran on him, like Siakam just takes off after he shoots a long three, and then it's breakaway dunk.
So here's my counter to the negative, because everyone starts with the negative, and that's why he's in these trade rumors. And obviously the first one is just Giannis, but then otherwise people want him out. And I kind of get it. But the positive is he is realistically the best shooting center the NBA has ever seen so far.
Yeah, he is. He is. If you look at the statistics, he is.
The problem is he's not being utilized in a way that maximizes that. And
he needs to start playing power forward.
Either power forward, or if you're going to play him at center, go to a true 5-out and run and gun. Play a fast pace like the Pacers. But you can't do this half-ass thing where you have him spacing the floor, but then you're playing a non-shooting player with him. It doesn't solve the equation.
I don't think a running gun helps us in any way, especially if we're going to roll out Brunson.
Well, and that's the other well, I don't know. I also think we didn't run a ton of Brunson cat pick and roll. Why there was no pick and pop, why there was no creativity on offense. It was just a ton of dribble. There was no real scheme or anything.
I think there's a big chemistry thing. I think
But I think it's you're defensive of Tibbs, which we're also going to get into. But
I think year one, Tibbs is so predictable.
They're the same issues we've had since Elfrid Payton was the point guard, though. He doesn't run an offense. He just asks a point guard to dribble around and figure it out.
The roster just keeps changing.
But that, again, to my point, the scheme should change to your personnel. You should be able to adapt. And yes,
it does a little bit, but it's
not
marginal.
Enough. And that's why this roster didn't get maximized, which is part of why I don't think you make any of the trades yet. I think it's a little impulsive. But with that said about Karl-Anthony Towns, the other trade outside of Giannis that people are floating is the idea of, because salary pretty much lines up, and there's a reason this other team would be intrigued by it, is the idea of Kevin Durant coming to New York for Karl-Anthony Towns. I don't like that. I get it. I do understand it. I think it makes a lot of sense because he's a better offensive creator than Cat is, and is just as good of a shooter. And realistically, you're not creating a defensive issue there. If anything, you're solving one.
He's 36.
Exactly. And that's why it's a no.
It makes no sense. And then it's funny, for years, listening to sports podcasts, and whenever Towns is talked about, they're all like, "Oh my God, it's such a shame because of how talented he is. It's such a shame that he has all these problems because of how talented he is." One regular season of watching him every night, he is beyond.
He's ridiculously good.
He is ridiculously talented, and when he's at his best, it is shocking. It's thank God this guy's on my team.
But how many games is he at his best?
Oh.
I mean, he won the Knicks probably 3 or 4 playoff games in this run.
He did. He did, and he's hard to guard. He really is hard to guard.
He's a matchup problem.
And, I think there's something to be said about a guy that, came in here. I've never seen a bad interview. He wants to be here. I think he's, down for
He's media trained.
Yeah, which I don't think he was in Minnesota. That was his problem, a huge problem. I can't fault that, and I think he played... Yeah, he saved us in a lot of places.
There were games he saved us. There were games where he killed us.
It's
polarizing.
But
Game 6.
That's where that's where you start to wonder, because that's what caps your ability to win a championship. If you're a guy who's eventually,
No, you go, and then I'll.
I was just saying that's what caps it. Is if you're, call it whatever you want to call it, is your B to your A player, whatever you want to call it, who's going to be making at some point on this contract over $60 million a year, is that unreliable? You are not going to win a championship. You're not. And so that's the issue. All right, go ahead. Jump in.
You are winning a championship if you have 10 players that you can play and he's your B option. And another thing I think we need to do this summer is make sure that McCall Bridges understands for his own career he needs to take a player-friendly
yes.
Well, that's the interesting thing, too.
I think he said that he would.
He was already rumored to have that happening, and I think that's why everyone thinks Brunson took the team-friendly deal.
Well, he has to at this point because I think he played himself out of some huge...
Exactly. I think that's the other thing.
If he stayed in Brooklyn, he would have got the max.
But that's how it works, I guess. You know,
you're on a bad team, they pay you the money they have.
Yeah.
You're on a good team, you're going to get paid a lot less if you want to win a championship and play with your friends.
I think the
are they
kicker,
friends?
though,
That's my hot take.
I think they're all friends. Come on. When he got traded to New York, he said to Brooklyn, "I want to be a Knick." How could they not be friends?
I think it was like a nostalgia for college, and then all of a sudden they were in the same room again, trying to work a job, and
they won a championship together.
No, I'm saying now. I'm saying you lose when. I just think, I don't know, things
There's
change,
no way.
you're all on your own for a little bit, you come back together.
There's no way.
I sense some weird chemistry issues between the three of them, throw Towns and OG in there. Definitely with OG. I feel like OG wasn't totally vibing with everyone else. Particularly Cat, but yeah, I don't know. Even Deuce had some questionable stuff to say at the end of the year.
It's year one.
I know.
But you think McCall will go for a team-friendly extension?
I'm thinking in the range 18 to 20 million. I think he's going to get a Josh Hart contract.
No, he's going to get more than that. He's going to make 25 to 30, I think. 30 probably.
We'll see.
And in constructing this roster, I think Josh Hart needs to be our sixth man or seventh.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I think whoever the fifth starter is needs to be able to shoot the ball and create a shot. Like, I think we were missing... honestly, and it's the frame of reference is only because he was on the team the last year, but a Dante DiVincenzo type. Someone who is able to create...
He can't create his own shot. He said it himself.
He was, though.
At the end of the year for the Timberwolves, he said, last year, I knew exactly when I was getting my shots. Brunson would pass me the ball, and I'd shoot it. He literally said he's more comfortable not creating.
He would at least be able to attack closeouts and whatever. Josh Hart would get the ball kicked to him, and he just stands in the corner and he just like pump fakes wide open threes.
Yeah, well, Josh Hart doesn't like to shoot.
When you have OG and McHale not being reliable 40% three-point shooters as advertised, which they weren't this year by any stretch, then you cannot have Josh Hart on the floor. You need a bona fide shooter, preferably one who can get the ball and attack his defender, which is something that Dante was capable of doing. And I think if you have a guy in that mold, it would be perfect. And so, right, I think Josh Hart has to be that 6th, 7th man role. I think what you could do if you really wanted to, and if he was up for it, I think bringing in a guy like Chris Paul to be a backup point guard would be ideal, because then you actually have another floor general, someone who can create when Brunson's off.
I don't think, I think there are lineups that you can run. You pull Brunson out for Hart, but the problem is like how many minutes can you leave Brunson out there, and how many minutes can you run with Hart and Mitch, and yeah.
This gets solved all of this gets solved with the kind of the through line of this episode, which is the 10-man reliable.
Landry Shamet.
But Landry Shamet's not crossing people up and like getting to
but he provides spacing, right? Like you think about, like we're talking about Dante, right? Like think about some of those plays. It was just like, it's not like Dante was running anything different than the other guys we have out there. It's just like he'd just like turn and shoot with the utmost confidence, and it'd go in. And Shamet does that too.
Yeah,
and it changes things.
No,
teams have to respect that. People have to get out there, and then there's just like a little roll. He did it once, right? I think they had like a side pick and roll. It was him and Mitch or something like that, and they two guys closed out to Landry, and he just dumped it over the top, and it was a dunk.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
No, and I think part of it too is in addition to having those, like the continuity of bringing some of those role guys back, either bringing in new guys to kind of fill those other like gaps that we kind of had in our roster, but also, and look, it is.
I'd love to re-sign, with the exception of.
Well, it's not.
I don't want to say it out loud, but we know who I'm talking about. There's one point guard on our bench.
You're going to say Campaign?
Yeah, but
look, again, talk about polarizing. That guy pretty much ignited us to win game 1 against the Pistons and then just absolutely shat the bed the rest of the playoffs.
And that's why we put in Delon Wright and Landry Shamet. And I'm glad Tibbs put in Shamet. I've been begging for Shamet.
I know. But anyway, the last point I was going to be making was I think that in addition to looking externally, they also need to look at some of the young guys. Huck Porty, realistically, you don't need to bring Precious back. I think that is a role that we don't need to fill.
I think Precious is gone.
The other thing, and I can't believe I'm saying it after the postseason he's had, and I've been his biggest defender, is Mitchell Robinson, if you ever were going to trade him, now is peak value. If you were ever going to go send him out, he's on the last year of his deal. He just played so well in the postseason, both defensively and on the offensive glass. I
think Mitch is a necessary. He's a must.
You think he's necessary to keep or trade?
Keep. He's a different level of physicality and grit, and the defensive. He holds himself so liable defensively.
Then if that's your belief, and you're keeping him, then you absolutely don't need Precious anymore, and you have to just trust in Huck Porty.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think before Huck Porty got injured with that MCL tear, whatever it was. You saw Tibbs really started to trust Huck Porty. He was like, wow, Huck Porty's bringing in this energy and he's doing some of the stuff that Hartenstein did last year.
Yeah.
And that's stuff we need. So, I mean.
And I'm curious to see, and again, with Tibbs as coach, my guess is that it's a no, but I'm curious to see how Daddier and then potentially Kolek factor into any roster decisions.
I think if Payne doesn't come back, Kolek has to take in 10 minutes a game, especially throughout the regular season. Someone's going to go down with injury, right? Brunson rolls his ankle, Deuce is hurt. He's going to have to play minutes.
I think we're going to have a sliding doors moment where we look back in 5 years when Kolek is the best player on the Rockets or something. And I don't see a lot of these young people, based on what the tweets I'm seeing, we are aggressively trying to win a championship in the next 2 years. And I think that means we're going to punt.
Well,
and package these young guys into.
I think what we knew was, and I think you're right, I think we knew the second they made the Cat trade, it wasn't about this year. It never was. Obviously, the door kind of opened when we beat the Celtics, and it kind of looked like there was a chance. Yeah. But it was never about this year. We're not over the second apron. We haven't put the pedal to the metal yet. I think they're going to do that for the next 2 years, especially now with the Celtics hurt. I think they see the East is up for grabs and can very much be ours, and if you're looking at it, as good as the Thunder are, if you round out this roster, you're right up there with them. So I think they see it. And so now I think they are going to go over that second apron. They're going to hit the tax hard, but they're going to have a damn good team to show for it. And so that's why I think, it's not about this year. And I do think they're going to be aggressive. And we might lose a lot of those young guys and maybe upgrading a rotational piece here or there.
We're losing 4 roster spots. Wright, Payne, Shamet, Achua. Those are 4 free agents. In my opinion, I think we should bring back Wright and Shamet. The fact that they're playing playoff minutes for us at the end, they deserve a roster spot. Especially because Tibbs is someone who needs to build that trust with people over a long time. You bring guys who have already been here, and if they want to be back, maybe they don't want to be back. But so that gives us 2 roster spots, and I think we're just one veteran away. You find the right vet minimum or whatever exception you get, mid-level exception, whatever you can afford, but you get the right forward who just I think something when OG comes out, who do we play at power forward?
Right.
Towns. So that's the type of signing we need. Identify someone.
I am going to I think it was it Tim Bontemps who reported this, but saying that he thought it would be a good idea for an Al Horford, who now Celtics window is closing. He's Dominican, play with Cat. He fits that same mold that the Knicks want to play as. He's kind of if Taj Gibson had a 3-pointer, at just end of his career, he's going to be a little physical inside. And
if we bring in a guy like Al Horford, I'd love to see us cut PJ Tucker. I think it's a shame
it's
that we're going to waste a
redundant.
roster spot on PJ Tucker if we have another late 30, 40-year-old vet on our roster.
But the difference there is Horford can actually play. If PJ
Right.
Tucker gets in, it's a problem.
But we need PJ Tucker to be there to like shoot the damn ball, you know?
No, and I think honestly, you know who needed that is Kat and probably Mikhail as
And
well.
Hart.
And Hart a little bit, yeah. But if you have another guy come in like a Horford or someone like that that's well respected, then it's redundant. And ideally, that person that comes in is multi-purpose, where they can actually play and act as a veteran. So
that's what you want,
right? So that's I don't know. I just think that there's things you can do. I think the last thing, I feel this way. I think you have to get rid of the coach. I do. I think the problem is, though, and here's where I'm going to put the asterisk. You only do it if you get an upgrade. And I think right now the upgrade is Johnny Bryant. And I think he has a good relationship with the current team. He's shown everywhere he goes, those teams get elevated. And he's always shown to kind of be the player whisperer. I mean, there's a reason Donovan Mitchell had such a good relationship with him. If you look at guys like Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett before they left, everyone that he's worked with in New York, and then look at what's happening in Cleveland. I mean, everyone there is pointing to him.
Yes, how much of that is Kenny Atkinson?
Okay, fine. So, regardless, though, the players they have been quoted of saying how they work with him directly.
I'm not squashing this. We're not getting him. Tibbs is going to stay the coach. It's just so clear.
Fine, but then
the thing I need to hope for, and then I'll let you finish. Johnny Bryant's going to coach Utah, and we're going to be depressed. And I know it's happening, or wherever they said he's going to go.
Phoenix. Bad job. He'll be in Nick in a couple years.
But Tibbs is going to be the coach next year. We have seen success we haven't seen in 30 years under him. Taking it from, and even though this did wind up being a disappointing year because the door, you said it well, Matthew, the door, we saw the light in the other room. The door opened when we beat Boston and we choked.
The expectation was Boston.
We got a level farther this year than we did last year, which the last time I checked was improvement.
Yes. But I think it was in spite of Tibbs.
And I think he learned something, and at least in that failure in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think he learned something. Luke said it earlier. I think we need to be seeing 9 to 10 man rotations the entire season. And I think the minutes are going to look lower for our starters. He's going to play a bench. And I think he learned that you can't.
He isn't going to do that.
The Knicks organization.
He has to.
He's a dinosaur and he doesn't listen to anyone.
No, he
doesn't do it unless he's going to get fired. And there were rumors he was going to get fired with how they were playing in the.
And he will get fired.
And then suddenly he did it.
He'll get fired mid-season. He probably has halfway through this season to just show that
at most. If they don't get rid of him now, he gets half the season.
I think it's very apparent that Thibodeau will only play players that he trusts absolutely. If we have I mentioned those 4 free agents, if we let them all walk and we bring in 4 new players, we will again have the same depth issues.
But it has to happen because our bench right now is not good enough. So
we have to. But part of building that bench is bringing guys back. Here are the guys that we like that we can return, and then we bring in 1 new guy, 2 new guys, right?
It has to be 3. I think it's Shamet and 3 new.
Yeah, maybe Shamet doesn't want to come back. Maybe Shamet gets $8 million from someone else. He decides to walk away, and we're out of luck. But again, you need to have that conversation with Tibbs and say, would you rather have DeLon Wright or some random guy we just picked up off the street?
I don't know. I just think he has proven over his entire career an inability to adapt, and I don't know why we think it's going to happen now. It's not going to happen now.
I think he does adapt. I think we have this huge expectation that he just goes from A to B to C to D, and we just see these huge changes, and we can visualize it. But I think it's really okay, he goes from A to a little bit less A and a little more B, and you kind of have a more fluid type of thing where the changes come very, very slowly. Tibbs is very predictable, but very fluid at the same time.
He runs the same offense that got Derrick Rose hurt. Still,
How did Tibbs
still does.
How is that Tibbs' fault though?
All he does is have a guard dribble around to try and create offense. He doesn't run a play. Their usage rate is off the charts. Look at Brunson's. Like, that's all he does is just have a guard. He did it with Elfrid Payton. Like, it literally, it's insane. He doesn't run an offense. He hasn't evolved. God forbid he asks anyone else, hey, can you draw a play for me? Like, it's just crazy.
I do agree with all this stuff. I do.
It's not, but that's my point of, he hasn't changed in 20 years. He's not going to change now.
You know, sometimes we have difficult coworkers, and all we can do is do our best.
Fire them.
No, to make it
get them canned.
To make it easy for everyone else to be productive, right? Like there's what you can do as Jalen Brunson, and there's what Tibbs can do as Tibbs. And if you're Jalen Brunson, then you realize that, like, you just have to make Tibbs' life as easy as possible. If you feel that he's difficult, and Brunson has done that, and I'm sure all the other players are doing that. I'm sure the front office is doing that. Everybody on the Knicks organization is probably super high functioning. So, you know, they're going to do everything they can to make it work.
Regardless, I do think that this offseason has a ton of questions. I think Leon Rose, yes, he kind of made the swing last year. This is, I think, his first real big test, because now there's so much expectation. In the past, it was like you wanted to see some sustained growth or whatever. Now it's like kind of either have to make the finals or win the finals. I think just getting back to the conference finals, unless you put up some Herculean effort and still lose, but it's like a valiant effort, and there's really like...
My feeling is the East is open, right?
Right.
And if we return our team, we should match our expectation or exceed it.
I mean, it's going to be realistically, to me, it's going to be a 3-horse race. It's going to be Cleveland, Indiana, and the Knicks. No one else to me is really in that equation right now.
You know, I honestly feel that right now, power ranking in the East, Indiana easily on top. They have the mentality. They know how to get there. I think they have a formula. Cleveland, I just think there's a kind of like what we see with Michael. He doesn't have that dog in him. With the exception of
games
Mitchell
this year, though. Like, I can't...
Regular season, watching the Thunder, and they played Isaiah Joe all year, and Caruso had to sit on the bench, and then all of a sudden Caruso becomes this big star. Regular season playoffs, different. There's no dog in 9 of the 10 players on Cleveland's roster, and that's going to hold you back. Ty Jerome, where you at? Regular season, he's talking crap to Paolo. I'd start on your team, and then it comes playoff time, and you choke against the Pacers? Come on. Ty Jerome, where you at?
All right. Sure, but at the same time, Ty Jerome is great in spurts when you don't have half the team injured. I just think there were way too many injuries this year, so I think it's hard to evaluate. I think they're still a great team, but I think realistically, those are the 3 teams that you have to worry about. And I guess
I'm higher on the Rockets than I am on the Cavs.
I know, but I'm talking about the East.
I'm talking about the Dogs.
I'm higher on most of the Western Conference teams than I am on anyone on the East.
Fair enough.
Realistically, the West is just an absolute juggernaut. But, which, speaking of, I guess we've spent a ton of time on the Knicks, so we can pivot now as we're finishing up.
This needed to be a Knicks episode, though.
It did need to be a Knicks episode.
Yeah, of course.
We hadn't been able to let all this out.
We record when the Knicks have their ups and downs. We're like, let's go Knicks. We record. Knicks are down. We record. It's always a Knicks episode.
That's how you know when a Hoop Troop episode is coming out. But all right, so let's just go rest of early signs of the offseason. What do we want to see? What don't we want to see? I would like to see Giannis go to the Spurs. Just while we're talking general, and I would like to see, just of the 2 stars we've already mentioned on the move, and I would like to see Durant go to Minnesota. I think those would be 2 really cool destinations.
I could care less about the stars on the move this season. My interest is in the gritty, quality starter or role player that a team needs. I'm talking Naz Reid. I'm talking Trey Murphy, right? I want to see where those guys go and why they go there, right? I see Naz Reid to Golden State. Why? And how long is he going to be there? And how much time are they going to put into this Curry championship run? I think that's a great fit. I think Naz Reid would be great there. That intrigues me more than Durant getting traded or Giannis getting traded. Because wherever Giannis gets traded, that team's going to get gutted. They're not going to be good for a little bit. Same thing with Durant.
Yeah,
So
probably.
I want to see these teams that are kind of like in the mix add a little bit. I want to see what the Rockets do. What are they gonna like? They were the 2 seed and they lost to the Warriors. I want to see what they do. I want to see how they take the next step.
I think there's going to be a lot of movement because I think teams are recognizing how you navigate this new CBA, and this is the first year where I think you have those teams that are like right on the cusp. They still have those young stars on those lower contracts, so they can go make the aggressive move for more I don't want to say not more star level players, but more like star role player level players.
There's also a huge offseason coming up, 2026. There's a huge free agency class. So what teams are going to be saying, let's hit a home run in 2025, and which teams are going to be saying, let's hold off for next year. Right. And even then, there's guys who, like Randall could opt in and become a free agent next summer. Naz Reid could opt in and become a free agent next summer. LeBron could opt in and become a free agent next summer. Right?
It sounds like LeBron is opting in. If Randall opts out, he's an idiot because he's not getting that money. Maybe
it's not about money for Randall anymore.
It's just about where he is.
It's about where he is, where he wants to be, and can I win a championship here?
I don't know. If you're making $10 million less a year or whatever it's going to be.
Also, Randall had a great postseason.
He did,
with the exception of like the last couple of games, against the Thunder. But where was that for the Knicks? I remember, how did we lose to the Hawks? How did we lose to Trae Young and the Hawks?
Because I can tell you, Alfred Payton was our starting point guard. That's why.
But how come Julius Randle couldn't lift us to a?
Because Tibbs runs plays where he just has his point guard to dribble around for 15 seconds of the shot clock. That's why, Luke. I know. I'm just saying, yes. No, well, and he just got hurt. I mean, if you look at his series against the Heat was a huge disappointment when we lost in 6. That was winnable. And then he got hurt last year. And for that month when we had Brunson, OG, and Randall all healthy, we had the best record in basketball. I think that is a huge what if of a team. But it is what it is. I mean, you can't have it back. I do think Randall has shown a lot of growth, and maybe part of that is getting traded and whatever. But I think, especially when he isn't making the money he's making, he's going to be very valuable on a team.
Okay.
That's how I look at him.
I'm also interested to see what the Lakers do. I think they have a lot of questions to figure out, and I think there's going to be a lot of movement on their roster.
Yeah.
So, I think maybe LeBron's opting in because he knows the Lakers are trying to move on. He's like, if I opt out, they're not going to pay me this. So,
but I don't understand why. Look, he talks like he wants a ring and everything. Why he is a billionaire? Why are you not willing to take? Why are you not willing to take a pay cut?
LeBron wants to be in the spotlight. Narrative.
I think it's narrative, and I think LeBron haters are going to say he got carried to the 5th one.
I know, but look at Duncan took pay cuts his entire career.
Yeah.
Duncan's such a unique superstar.
But everyone celebrates that. What's the difference?
I think people just celebrate the Spurs and their team brand.
But that's it. It's so selfless. That's the whole thing. And Duncan, didn't take all the money you could take to make the team better. LeBron not taking all the money you could take to make the team better. Instead that's him ring chasing. I don't know.
If you ask a 10-year-old who Tim Duncan is and what made him special, he'd be like, I don't know, Tim Duncan was just good,
Look at Jalen Brunson right now, though, taking a team-friendly pay cut. Which the reporting that's coming out is executives are saying it's an enviable position the Knicks are in because of that.
If the Knicks win a championship with Brunson on the roster, he could potentially be the greatest Knick of all time and be celebrated for the end of time.
He will be. It's undoubted. He's already breaking all these records.
I mean, Clyde has 2 rings, but
Jordan versus LeBron,
I know it's a silly thing, and the game has changed so much, and the league was so different back then.
If Melo did it, come on.
Yeah.
Here's the other. I'm still making this a Knicks podcast.
I know. Who are we kidding?
It's always the Knicks.
Another reason why we need to I think we have 2 or 3 years in this Brunson era is too many teams are going to get a little too good. The mountaintop, even if we get to the finals at some point in the next couple years.
I think that's true.
I'm afraid of the team that we're going to have to play. I just think the Lakers are only going to get better with Luka. I'm thinking about, I mean, it's ridiculous for me to be thinking about potential finals matchups, but
Only
Matthew's
teams.
excited. Matthew's excited about Giannis and Wemby pairing up. I'm not, because then we're not going to win the finals.
But
So, like,
look at the East though. The Pistons. They were good, and they're going to
Pistons
get
are
better.
going to get better.
The Magic are going to get better.
But right now,
depending on what they do and how they navigate it, the Sixers will get better. They will get back.
There's still a pecking order, though, right? Like,
yeah, definitely.
The top is crumbling, right? The top is the Celtics. Tatum, obviously, devastating.
But they have a chance to retool. It could be a weird blessing in disguise for them. They were going to have no choice but to make changes anyway. Now you can make kind of drastic ones, take a year off, get a good pick, or not, or just have, you could be in the lottery and still, I don't know, even if you pick ninth.
But even after, let's say, you keep Tatum and you trade another guy and you build around whatever pick you have in Tatum, and even then, there's no fear about the Celtics anymore, right? I think after they won the championship, you're like, here's this juggernaut.
I was
Tatum
afraid of them.
I'm not afraid of them. After beating them and knowing that whatever version of Tatum comes back will not be pre-injury Tatum.
Yeah. We were down 23 times. We were down 23 times.
Yeah. Not scared.
We were getting rocked by them.
They're not winning another ring with this group.
I think it depends on how they retool.
I agree with that.
Well, and I'm curious to see, is Jaylen Brown gone? How do they handle this weird? You almost have to look at it like a gap year, and
it'd be interesting to see what they pick. Right? Do they side with Jaylen Brown and their star, or do they side with the depth that Derek White and Porzingis and?
The other thing that I think is super important is the new second apron rules, where if you go over it for 2 consecutive years, your pick is then automatically 30th. This now lets them go down, reset those 2 years, and then they can.
But they still have to make a move. If they don't make a move, they're second apron. They get
right. But my point being, if they do make the move to go under, they can then recalibrate, decide, all right, on this new timeline of whenever he's healthy and we want to go for it again, then we can reopen a new 2-year window plus. So I think getting out of that just this year is so important for them.
I don't think the Celtics will ever be the big dog in the East as long as Tatum's on their roster.
Wow. Even as they're the reigning champs.
There's no, if they won again this year, we could say potential dynasty. Now that they, even if Tatum didn't get injured, we could still say, okay, they're a good team. They're the big dog in the East. But the fact that he got injured and they didn't win this year, no dynasty. Not scared. They're not the big dog. It's going to be someone else.
It's going to this big dog narrative.
It's right now power rankings. Just watching the Knicks lose to the Pacers, it's the Pacers on top. They might not be the one. They might not be the 1 seed in the regular season, but they are the best playoff team in the East. And then you have to say the Knicks, power rankings wise, right? We just beat the Celtics, crazy series. The Pacers absolutely destroyed the Cavs. I guess their whole team was injured, but no one's scared of the Cavs, and
I would agree with that.
Dame getting injured puts the Bucks out of it. People question whether or not Giannis is committed to Milwaukee. So Kuzma's a great tank player. So,
I look at this and I just see the teams that are going to start moving up, and there's not a ton in the East.
2 in the East, Magic and Pistons. Both those teams are going to continue to get better.
And I'll put an asterisk on Philly, because I do think they were very injured this year, and they would have to be healthy,
Embiid's
which I don't trust.
Embiid will never come back fully healthy. Paul George.
But my point being, they have the 3rd overall pick this year. They have options to.
Nobody they draft at 3 is going to be franchise changing now.
But think of it as pairing with Maxey for the future. I still think they have a bright future. They haven't traded all their picks to get to where they're at. They have options to improve.
By the time that 3rd pick becomes a quality NBA player, this Knicks group will be done, and our championship window will close, and we'll be at the bottom of the East again.
Maybe. 3 years from now, you think that's the case?
Jared McCain, Tyrese Maxey, Ace Bailey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid doesn't scare me at all.
I think
with the toxic culture Embiid's built there, what bench will they have?
I think they're not I think they're not a play-in team. I think they're probably in the top 6. Realistically, they are probably the 6th seed. If we're being honest, with the way that everything else is unfolding.
We're gonna fill out our spreadsheet again and just get it all completely wrong.
Of course we are.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
That spreadsheet is never even close.
No.
I look at it every once in a while. I'm like, what were we thinking?
Yeah, we were nowhere close this year. Nowhere close.
You had Boston, right, over Denver, or something.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I think
actually it's not that unreasonable.
Denver would have been the second best team in the West. Denver is the second best team in the West right now.
Probably, although they're in a weird spot too. I don't know what they do financially.
Yeah, they're financially kind of in a crisis, but I think roster-wise, they're in an okay shape.
Yeah, probably. And they also, I mean, same thing, a lot of injuries.
But, yeah, I mean, the Michael Porter Jr., like, if Michael Porter Jr. is completely healthy, do they take that series? I'd be interested. That's an interesting what if.
Yeah. And Aaron Gordon.
Aaron Gordon, yeah. I forgot he missed Game 7. He's been unreal.
He played. Granted, hobbled, but he played.
He did the OG. He was
better than OG, though.
He's got more of a dog.
That was like medical malpractice, letting him run
letting OG out there.
That was bad. Aaron Gordon at least looked a little better, but yeah, it was still as bad.
OG took off on one sprint. He was like...
It was it. He had a 3 that was like, yeah, this is it. I'm done. But yeah, in the West, I mean, you go through, obviously OKC is still going to be up there. Houston's still going to be good. The Lakers will be good. Denver will be good. I think the Clippers will probably fall off a little bit. Minnesota's still going to be good.
The Clippers are just in that like awkward. They're going to be like a tween team. I still think they're a playoff team, not a play-in team. But
I don't know. Like there's a lot of good teams behind them.
At some point, there's going to be teams that pass them.
I think the Warriors pass them. I think Memphis is in a weird spot. I could see them probably falling off a little bit.
I don't know if Memphis gets any better.
No,
I think
Memphis is.
I'm just going down the standings.
As long as Ja Morant's on their roster.
I also think the Spurs make a jump.
Yes,
100%.
But like enough to maybe be top 6.
I kind of feel the Wemby blood clots thing wasn't as serious as they made it sound.
It sounds like he's already back and practicing.
Well,
the only thing stopping the Spurs is just a freak accident.
Yeah, I think like there were videos of Wemby like running around playing soccer.
I know, I saw that.
Like a month after they were like, we're shutting him down. Yeah. It's like no way. There's no way this. I mean, the Spurs must have known he was going around doing this type of stuff, right? Like
I would think. Also, with El Jefe Pop, maybe they move up.
Maybe it would be nice if he could just wait for the Brunson window to close.
I know.
You just need
It doesn't happen overnight, right? That's the thing. Even then, like there's still like a progression. You think about Oklahoma City, right? They still had to lose in the playoffs twice, right? Yeah. So even if Wemby does make the playoffs, he's still got to lose twice before he's a final contender.
Heading there, yeah.
And I mean, I think the other teams to kind of just look out for. I mean, I think the Pelicans are screwed. They messed their whole.
It's over.
They messed their whole thing up. Utah's still going to be
Zion.
bad.
Over.
Portland could improve. They had a good second half of the year. I'll give them that. They're obviously they're fighting for a play-in spot. They're fighting for one. They might not even get one, but they'll be a little better.
Do they have a top pick? Do they have a lottery pick?
Yes, they. Let me pull up Ticket Thumb. What do they?
Do they have 2 picks? Do they have like the Bucks pick or something like that?
Portland picks 11th.
They're 11th.
And I think that's it.
Yeah, they only have the 11th pick.
Yeah. Yeah, they moved down in the stupid lottery.
Yeah. Rigged.
Insane. We won't even get into that, but I do the only reason I'll say that is Dallas. They're going to have Anthony Davis and Cooper Flagg, and I know Kyrie's hurt and may not get back all next season, but that team still could be solid.
They're building around Cooper Flagg. Anthony Davis is going to play 45 games.
They should trade Anthony Davis.
Yeah,
they should just
definitely.
They should tank.
If I were them, that's what I'd do. But they're not going to. They cannot. They can't turn around on that trade that quickly.
I'd love to see it'd be very. I don't know. It'd be absolutely hilarious if they traded the first pick for some other role player.
Yeah.
Some other starter. But I think the remnants of a team they have in Dallas is like the absolute perfect place for Cooper Flagg
Yeah.
to learn how to be an NBA All-Star and a
That's
superstar.
why I think they're realistically in play-in territory. If he's as solid as everyone's advertising,
I don't think he is, but I think in 8 years he's going to be the face of the league.
I think that'll be Wemby, but yes, it'll be the two of them.
The problem with Wemby is French.
He's international, but he's so damn good.
Wemby will be the face of basketball in Europe and Africa.
You don't think we're just watching like a Kirilenko?
No. Maybe. I mean, I have seen that comp, but no.
I think if you put him in a situation, he turns into Kirilenko, but you put him in a different situation, he turns into like elite level Paul George, like better than like Oklahoma City Paul George.
Well, I've seen everyone be like, he is great at everything. He's not elite at anything. So, but said, a player like that undeniably raises your floor.
He led Duke in every major statistical category.
Yeah.
He was second in National Player of the Year voting.
And what's crazy is it's the defense that's so intriguing.
Yeah, he locks in on defense.
Yeah. And Nico said it, defense wins championships. He fits the mold.
So yeah. I think you draft Flag, you give it a couple years, you slowly kind of fill in the pieces around him, see what works well, see what doesn't.
Yeah.
I think whenever Kyrie does get back, I think that'll be good. I think you have Anthony Davis there to be like, this is what it means to be in the NBA.
It's a good mentor, I think.
As long as it's after the Brunson era. I need all of this stuff to happen after the Brunson era.
The Brunson era could linger.
The Spurs at 2 is really interesting because, like, just drafted Castle, just traded for Fox, who's the obvious second pick. Dylan Harper, same position as those guys. So
they're going to use it to trade for Giannis.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think they should trade for
Giannis. They're going to.
I think they should trade for someone else. They should trade for, like, I don't know, who's the best. They should trade for Jaren Jackson Jr. I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone who would be the second star to Wemby, where, like, if you trade for Giannis, it'd be like Wemby is now the second star to Giannis.
I'm reluctant to trade that pick. I think part of me is almost like you just take it and then you see which of those additional...
Well, it's also interesting because they have 14 too, right? So, like, they trade 2 for the superstar. They draft someone at 14 that, like, fits the mold of whatever they want. And then I also think they have 2 roster spots. They drafted 2 guys pretty close together in the lottery a couple years ago, 2 shooting guards, one from Notre Dame and one from Ohio State, Malachi Branham and Blake Wesley. I don't think either of those guys are on their roster long term. I think Keldon Johnson, gone.
Probably.
Yeah, so I think they have moves to make. I think with the right adjustment, they're a championship team easy. So,
but yeah, and I don't think it's not going to take long.
No, 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Does anyone have anything else they want to touch on before we wrap this puppy up?
No, I think we need another app. Let's do another app when we get to free agency.
I know.
We almost need a new episode fairly soon to do like a true part 2 because we spent like 45 minutes just having a therapy session.
No, this is a good app. I feel like when we just spitball, it's it
was basically a therapy session for me, just airing my Knicks grievances. Which I didn't rant as much as I thought I was going to, so I'm proud of myself. I did wear my Maggie Rogers, and by the way, the Knicks lost shirt just to flaunt the fact that we got crushed.
I thought you were going to use the shared Twitter account to tweet out some stuff I don't approve of, all this fire tip stuff.
Luke,
and I was like,
I save that for my Twitter. I wouldn't put that on our brand. Although I do think that's the official stance of the Hoop Troop.
I think I tweet stuff sometimes that you don't necessarily agree with, and I can tell because I'm the only one who likes and retweets.
No, sometimes I just miss them.
Oh, okay.
No, my goal is to like and retweet everything that goes out. But
sometimes I tweet something like nice about Mikal Bridges, and I'm like, Matt didn't like that.
Then those maybe I saw and didn't post. I miss you, Dante. Come back. I'll trade you for Mikal straight up. All right. Well, for those of you who have made it this far, thank you for tuning in. This is the Hoop Troop podcast, and join us next time.